Maria, so I've had the pleasure to meet you because you were so kind enough to talk to my mentees from the Lower East Side Girls Club and get them educated on things that are going on in the education world. And you're an activist. You do a lot of work for the community. So can you explain a little bit about your role? Because I'm trying to understand when I saw the title, because I just know you love the people, you care about education. So what exactly is a campaigns director?
Sure. I'm going to start with just quickly talking about our organization. So
Perfect.
The name of our organization is the Alliance for Quality Education.
Right.
We're a statewide alliance of that's made up of many groups, and we do education advocacy work, right?
Okay.
And so my job as a campaigns director is to really drive and inform the campaigns that we are moving forward and making sure that we're winning on all of our issues.
So what is the purpose of the organization in general? Like, why did they come together?
Yeah.
Why do they care about education?
That's a great question. Because we come out of the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. It's a really old lawsuit. It was filed in 1993 by a parent that was then on the school board, and he was like, something's fishy is happening here. Schools in Washington Heights just aren't getting enough funding, and he sued the state. He sued the state with many parents.
Wow.
And we were created as the organizing arm of that campaign. So as it was going through our justice system, we were organizing parents and community members around the issue to make sure that people were informed, that we were fighting back, that we were the voices on the ground, serving to justify why this campaign was happening. And so we're still in existence today. We're still fighting the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. We won it in 2006. Our economy crashed in 2008, and we're still owed $4.1 billion. And I just want to make it really clear, the majority of this money is owed to Black, brown, and poor districts across New York State. And New York City is owed $1.4 billion of that money today.
So people understand why this money is important. Why do you guys want this money for the school system?
Yeah, so for us, it's not about money. We have a governor that says that money doesn't matter, but when he says that, he's saying that money doesn't matter in our communities, in Black and brown communities. And when we're on the ground, we just did this tremendous school tour across the state. And what we're finding is that in Black and brown and poor districts across the state, we don't have the access to basic resources. So we're talking about the lack of technology, no libraries, no librarians, outdated textbooks, and it ranges the gamut of all sorts of issues. So the fact that we don't have guidance counselors or social workers, that we don't have science labs, right? That's the basics.
That's crazy too.
Right. And then we say that our education system is failing, right? And we've set up an education system that is going to fail because we're not adequately funding it.
What is the holdup? Why can't the schools get the money and the resources, right? The access to resources that they need?
Yeah. So we have a governor that refuses to fully fund our schools. I mean, at the end of the day, he's like, we're already funding them. We're funding them enough. And he's not taking into account equity. And equity means that school districts that need the most money get the most money. And that we're actually taking into account what's happening. So are we looking at how many special needs students are in districts? Are we looking at the numbers of English language learners? Are we looking at the number of children that are living in poverty? And all of those things in New York City, we have a high number of children living in poverty, a high number of children that are learning English, as well as a high number of children with special needs. And we're not taking that into account. And it's not just happening here in New York City, it's happening across the state. So we're looking at big cities like Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse, and we're all deeply impacted by this.
This worries me about the education that children, young teens, young adults are receiving, because they're not getting everything that they truly should be receiving in school.
Yeah.
And so how does that impact students? Like, without this funding, without the access to science labs and just really good quality education, how does this affect the student?
We're leaving students behind. And again, I want to make sure that like we're conveying the message that we're leaving behind Black, brown, and poor students, that they are not graduating at the same pace as their white counterparts, that they're not receiving access to advanced placement courses in the same way that some other children are, and that this really limits our children and their potential. And we really want an education system that is fully honoring the whole student, right?
Right.
So the other way that it impacts it is that our children, it's a kill and drill. You're going to school and you have to perform well on a math test or on an English test. And the first thing that we cut is the arts, sports, the things that make school fun. And so we're also sucking the joy out of education for Black, brown, and poor kids.
So what are the steps to improve this? Because it feels like it's a lot of work. Someone like myself who's listening, we want to help. We want to assist you because it is important that, you know, the communities are receiving what they need so that they are successful and so that they can enjoy education and they can enjoy their fullest potential. So what can someone like myself, someone who's just watching, someone who supports this, what can they do that's easy and that they can actually help you with?
Yeah. So it's a call to organize, like more than ever. There's this insistent cry for people to vote, and we need to vote, right? Like we need to vote the right people in, and also we need to organize. We need to be sharing, and I love that you're sharing this platform. This is really important for us because oftentimes, we're a really small team in New York City, and to get this information out to as many people as possible, these are the kind of platforms that we need. Right. And so I'm really grateful for that.
Of course.
But the thing that I want to stress the most is how are we getting this information out to our communities? How are we talking to our neighbors? How are we connecting with parents and students around what's happening? Because oftentimes we know something's wrong, right? We know, why is it that I don't have arts? Or why is it that, at my goddaughter's school, they're owed over $1 million. They have after school programs part-time. They have art programs part-time, but we don't quite know why it's happening. And so it's really important to organize our communities and be talking about these issues in a really straight way.
Of course, our education system, we don't invest in it as we should in this country in general, right? But we don't know the magnitude of what is lacking in our school systems. So are you having... do people even know? When you're going into the community, do they realize that they've been shortchanged, that they're not really... they're not part of a community that's invested in? Are they aware of what's going on? Or is this part of the strategy to get people informed, to realize that so many communities are underserved?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people know something's wrong. Okay. Right? I think that for the most part, people know, that there is some kind of disinvestment. I think what's really interesting is that people don't know the specifics. They don't know names of court cases. They don't know how much money our public school system is owed. They don't know that the state is responsible for fully funding our public schools and that they're dragging their feet on this very low old law suit. And so these are the things, these are the specifics that as an organization, we try to arm community members with, right? Now you have the specifics. And we also are working on training folks. I think that that's also a really important part of the process. How many of our community members are engaged with their state legislators, right? Have talked to their state legislators. And oftentimes we find that they haven't engaged with them in a way that is really conducive to changing our education system. And so it's not just let's get this information out there, but let's have a coordinated campaign. Let's train up parents and students to be able to talk to legislators, to be able to change the systems that are not working for them.
So for the organization right now, what are, I guess, the issues, and then what are the solutions for that? Because I know you guys have been working a long time and, trying to balance out the education system and really make it fulfilling for everybody. So what are the issues, and then how is it being tackled right now?
Yeah, so the first one that I've already talked about is the campaign for fiscal equity. It's ensuring that our schools are fully funded, securing the all of the money that our children deserve, the $4.1 billion. And that's something that we've been working on for a really long time.
Right.
And the solution is the state needs to fully fund our public schools, right? But part of the process and the important part as an organization is engaging community members in those conversations and like on the grounds being able to show, look, this is what money means to us, right? And so engaging folks around that. A couple of other issues that we are.
Well, how does someone help that cause? Like they're hearing this right now. Is this something that they can sign up? Is there a petition? Like what can us, the people, do?
Yeah. So so the budget session in Albany is from January through April. So it's closed out. So the opportunity around this, the campaign for fiscal equity, it's coming. We're having conversations, and we're really building up our capacity during the summer to be able to tackle this once the budget session starts again in January. Yeah.
Got it.
But right now is the legislative cycle in Albany. And so from April through June, legislators are making important decisions on bills. And so we have two really critical bills that impacts Black and brown communities that we need people to be engaged around. And I'm going to share the information about our website and our Twitter so people can follow us.
Yes, please.
And write to us, like reach out, like get involved.
Right.
But the Safe and Supportive Schools bill is a really important bill that addresses the school to prison pipeline. And the school to prison pipeline is alive and well. We are literally driving students, Black and brown students, again, all of our work is really centered around racial justice. And we deeply believe that education justice is racial justice for our communities.
Right.
And so a lot of our kids, we're finding that their first entry point to the criminal justice system is happening in schools, right? Woo! And we're talking about metal detectors. And you know what was so amazing talking to your mentees? They spoke about this. Like they're deeply connected around these issues because it's their lived experience day in and day out. Do you imagine the first thing that you find when you walk into a school is a metal detector, and that you have to make a line, you have to take off a book bag, and wait. Sad. Yeah, it's really disturbing. Right. It's really disturbing. And in addition to that, we're talking about suspensions as well. So we are disproportionately suspending Black and brown children. 1 out of 5 Black boys get suspended. 1 out of 7 Black girls get suspended at disproportionate rates from their white counterparts that are doing the same exact things, right? So that means that we're treating children for the same things that they're doing differently. And the outcomes...
And that is wrong.
Yes.
Wrong.
Deeply wrong. And what we're doing is fostering a school to prison pipeline. And so these bills, this very important bill that legislators are going to have the opportunity to vote on before the end of June is just critically important. We're talking about eliminating suspensions from kindergarten to 3rd grade. Imagine suspending.
Just hearing this is just so upsetting.
It's really problematic.
Disturbing.
Yeah. We're like, what is wrong with you? Why are you suspending?
Kindergarten?
Yeah. Why are you suspending kindergarteners? And we have people that are saying, our kindergartners are violent. What?
What? They're children.
Who are you?
They're kids.
Yes, exactly. And so that's a critical component of the bill. The other parts of the bill that are really important is we're trying to reduce suspensions, the time that you can be suspended from 180 days to 20 days. So imagine you are suspended, you get a 180-day suspension. That means that you're out of school for a whole year. And oftentimes, those children aren't receiving like the adequate...
How is that allowed?
It is alive and well. Like it is part of what we're talking about. Like this is one large machine that is feeding young people into our criminal justice system. And this is why this bill is so critical in this moment when we're talking about all of these racial justice issues. Like we saw, like the Central Park 5, right? Ugh. Like it's just, all of these issues are connected, and we are criminalizing Black and brown children in a way that we don't treat white children. Mm-hmm. And that if we really want to address these racial disparities, we need to start addressing them. And I think just a couple of other things that I want to talk around the bill that are really important. is the call for restorative justice. So it's not just, let's not suspend students, but it really is, how are we getting to the core of what's happening?
Right.
How are we getting to the core of the root problem, right? Because when a child hits another child, there is more.
Something is going on.
Yes, there's some underlying issues that are happening there. And the other thing that we really want to teach young people through these restorative justice circles is that we can amend the harm that we've done to our communities, right? And that we have communities that are ready to receive us, and that are ready to work with us when we are doing something that's not right? And that we can truly learn from our mistakes. And so we're calling, all of this is in the bill. It's all really wonderful work. And we're just really hoping that this bill is going to get through, right? Like that we're finally going to have an enacted safe and supportive schools bill. It just doesn't address what's happening here in New York City. It addresses all of our school districts across the state. It's all 700 school districts. So it's a really impactful bill if we're able to get it through, and if we're able to get a bill that's true to what we want to do.
Right.
So right now, there's a possibility of it getting watered down. We don't want that.
Right.
We want the real bill. We want the bill that addresses the school to prison pipeline in a more holistic way.
So when you're talking about this bill for people who are just strolling on our interview and they're just like, where is this bill? What are you talking about? What is going on? Just because, the media will only focus on, when we're voting for presidents, right? And that's a whole different discussion because we know the electoral
and we need to talk about that,
Right. But so right now, someone who's listening, they're just like, I didn't even know something was going on right now. So how do we introduce them to that?
So I think it's just really important for everyone to know that at every single level, there are important decisions being made without your voice. That there are important decisions that are being made without people being really brought to the table. And unfortunately, a lot of that work is happening, and it's not addressing a lot of the issues that are happening in our communities. And so for the Safe and Supportive Schools bill, it lies at the state level. It's a statewide bill, again, and the legislature is going to be voting on it. And the way that New York State legislature works is that it gets introduced at the assembly, as well as the state senate. And they run it through their committees, so it starts in education committees, and then it works its way up. And then at the end, both the Senate and the Assembly are going to vote on the bill, right? And then the governor signs it into existence, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's just really important. We have tons of information on the bill, petition around the bill on our website. And so definitely go to www.aqeny.org if you're interested in participating and helping in organizing around this bill. We only have a few, if even a week left to really make a difference on this bill. So it's super duper important that people get involved.
What made you want to get involved with education? Because, my brother was a teacher. I come from a family of teachers, and it's hard. Teachers are underpaid. Schools are underpaid in general. Just the resources, the lack of money that's invested in education it's so ridiculous that we don't care about education the way we should. We should be investing in our kids and the youth and students. We should be investing, right? And it's a lot of work. I know that you do a lot of work, the organization you're part of. What made you want to get involved and do this? This is such a hard fight. And it almost feels like we're never going to win this fight, but you continue to fight. Get up every day and you're fighting for kids. You're fighting for the community. What made you want to do this?
The children. And I feel like I really struggled to see myself reflected in our education system. And I had a more privileged experience. I went to Catholic school all my life. And I think, especially for high school more than anything, I had an experience where I had access to a lot of resources. I had access to what I like to call whiteness, right? Like that school was in a school district that was pretty affluent. We had AP courses, we had the arts, we had sports. And I just feel like everyone, whatever privilege you have, use it. Right?
And help others. Use it by helping others who don't have it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, this is really important because I feel like even though I had more access to resources, what I didn't have was a reflection of self. I never felt that I was reflected in the curriculum I only had one black teacher in the 11th grade, and I followed that woman around everywhere. And I think that deeply impacts how black and brown children see themselves. And that was definitely my entry point to education, right? Like how education is one of the ways that we level the playing field. Right. And we're not doing children justice with our education system as it is right now. And definitely, like, my personal experience with the lack of culturally responsive education really informed my decision to want to organize around the education system. And when I got to college, I had the most amazing experience, which was 360 degrees of separation from what I had experienced from K through 12. So all of the teachers looked like me. We're women. I did Black studies, Latinx studies. I did sociology, and all of my teachers were also coming from the left, like really understanding the issues that are impacting our communities from root causes, and really talking about that.
Systemic oppression and the systemic issues that we have.
And I felt so connected. I felt so alive. And I really think that this is where I started to heal a lot of the issues that came up from not feeling reflected or honored in my education system. Right now, as we speak, there are tons of young people, parents, community organizers on the steps of Tweed, on the steps of the Department of Education, fighting and supporting the culturally responsive education work that's happening here in New York City. So the New York Post has taken it upon itself to push back and write story after story after story against the culturally responsive, anti-bias teacher trainings that are happening in the Department of Education right now.
Why are they taking this stance? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why?
So apparently there's 3 white women within the Department of Education that have taken issue with the culturally responsive education work that's happening, specifically with the anti-bias teacher training, which was just enacted and won by parents. $23 million parents won to make sure that our teachers have access to anti-bias teacher training. And what they're saying is that it's creating a toxic environment around whiteness within the Department of Education. And they're saying that our chancellor is leading that work. And so we're pushing back, right? Like, this is work that parents on the ground worked for and won. Finally, we're able to get $23 million to do this very important work because our children are not being reflected adequately. So while almost 85% of New York City's school system are Black and brown children, 60% of the teachers are white. And even teachers on surveys have said, we don't have the resources or the training to really adequately teach children that don't look like us. And so the teachers themselves have said that they want this support.
So this is beneficial to teachers. This training is
right? This is for everyone. So you want to be a better teacher, right? Like, culturally responsive education helps you be a better teacher.
Of course.
And this is extremely beneficial to Black and brown children that sit in classrooms that never see themselves reflected, that never feel like the curriculum is talking about them, their cultures, their histories. And so this is just all around good practice.
Right. It's good to have this training. It's just, you're seeing all the different companies in the news, right? They're not having any type of diverse training. They're not being inclusive. And then an incident happens at their store, then they have to shut down the store because they have to do some type of training, right? To understand what's going on. So here is a preventative way to do this so that an incident doesn't occur at school, and it's being pushed back. This is so concerning.
Yeah, it's really concerning. I think that when you think about the Post, you know, like that they're not exactly racial justice advocates. So we know that the place that they're writing from is already skewed. But I just think it's just super problematic that finally, after years of parents really fighting for this work, we have 3 women within the Department of Education that are pushing back and that aren't honoring students, that aren't willing to honor students' abilities, their cultures, their histories, their rich histories, and acknowledge that this makes us all better. Right?
Yes.
And so this is a huge problem. And so right now, as we're doing this interview, people are on the steps of Tweed pushing back, and we really want folks to follow the hashtag Education for Liberation. You can see it. You can see all of the tweets that we've been putting out there, just pushing back against this, and just making sure that parents' voices aren't lost in this, that student voice isn't lost in this, because this is really important work.
So other than that, what else can people do, like myself and just other people who want to be part of the solution, and they want our school systems to be great for everybody, and they want equality, they want, the different cultures celebrated, because that's the right thing to do. That creates a healthy environment, right? For everyone.
Yes, for
students,
everybody.
teachers, parents, everyone thrives. So what else can we do? Is there anything else that we can do to support the movement that's already going on?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the most important thing is getting involved, reaching out to us. And again, I'll share my website because all of our information is out there. Please just reach out, connect with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and at www.aqeny.org. We are constantly doing protests and rallies and organizing within communities to hold people accountable to do the right thing.
And how about the Twitter, and what are the tags for that?
Yeah, so you can follow at AQE_NY.
Got it.
And hashtag Education for Liberation.
Got it. Okay. And is there anything else that you feel that is really important for, our young audience who's watching, and they want to help, and they don't know where to begin, because this is so overwhelming, right? But there is a fight going on. There is a movement going on. Is it just a matter of going to your website and reading and understanding and getting educated on it? Is it as simple as that?
Yeah, getting engaged in that way is very simple. And also start local. That we have this idea that, we have something that we want to push and we want to do, and that it needs to be big, and that we have to get 100 people involved. No, right? Start local. What are the campaigns that are near and dear to you? What are you seeing, right? Tell your story. Start sharing what's happening to you, and I'm sure you'll find that there's so many other people that are impacted by the same thing. And start local, right? Start talking to your peers about, how you feel we can make our school better. Right?
Yes.
And address that, right? Start organizing with 1 or 2 or 3 people, because once we start building these connections with folks and building up our sense of power and our sense of community, we can really tackle big issues that feel impossible to win.
So if someone wants to contact you, Maria, what is the best way? Like, is it Twitter? Is it Instagram? Is it the website?
I'm going to give you my email.
Yes.
You can reach me at maria@aqeny.org. That's the best way to reach me. And I'm always pretty flexible around, meeting up with people and just having conversations around where people are at, what's impacting them, and then making bigger connections, right? Because this isn't happening in a silo. All of these issues are deeply connected. So I started talking about the campaign for fiscal equity and how our schools are under-resourced, and that's connected to the school to prison pipeline. Right. So we're finding that in a lot of these schools where there is a school to prison pipeline that's alive and well, we don't have guidance counselors or social workers, and it's because we don't have the resources, right? And in these same schools, we're finding that the curriculum isn't reflecting our children, that teachers don't reflect who's in the classrooms.
Moving forward, what can people do? Are there things that you want people to be aware of or to keep on their calendar? Yes, everyone's getting ready for January again, but from now until then, what can people do to support you and your organization?
Yeah, so we're going to do a lot of on-the-ground work during the summer, just connecting to folks, right? And we want to have as many conversations and connect to as many folks as possible around education. So we really are building up that collective that I was talking about, and that that our team is stronger, that our communities know what's happening. And so I encourage people. We have a parent education program that we're starting up in the fall.
Nice.
And we're talking about training people from community organizing skills to facilitation skills, lobby skills. So many different ways of engaging with the system, just preparing folks to be able to do that deep work.
Oh, this is great. And can people volunteer part of your organization?
Yes.
Okay, great. So that's another way people can get involved, just in case, voting might not be for them. I never tell people what they can and can't do, but, there's different ways that you can help and support the great work that's going on. They can become a volunteer. They can communicate with other people in their community to see what is needed, how we can collectively come together to help one another. I think that's important. Any other tips for someone who wants to get involved in your world, but is a little nervous too, just because it seems never ending with the issues?
Yeah. Sometimes I'm like, oh, why am I doing this work?
Right.
Like,
It's a lot of work. It's hard
This
work.
is madness. But I feel like just do it. Like, just get involved. Like, we have so much to lose and so much more to gain, right? Like, really, like, what we're talking about is education for liberation. And any little move that you make, signing a petition, like, I often think that people think, oh, this organizing thing, it's so big and, like, we have to do all of these things. And it isn't. Do what you can right now, right? If you can make a call to your legislator, call your legislator right now and tell them, we want to pass the Safe and Supportive Schools Act. Right now, send a tweet, right? So we're supportive of culturally responsive education. We want kids to see themselves reflected in their school system right now. Send your legislator an email, right? Like, hey, where are you at with this, right? There's so many different ways of engaging with the system.
That's important.
Yeah.
That's something that you could do right now.
Right now.
And it's not hard.
Yes.
So where can they find that information? Let's make it even easier. Like, if they're like, okay, so who am I emailing? Like, where is there a website where we can find all this information?
Yeah. I think that the easiest way is just going to our website. We have a petition, and I can send you the link, and maybe we can hyperlink it.
Right.
Yeah. So, and that'll be a lot easier for people to just connect to and be able to click on that.
Right.
But our website has so much information around all of these issues and the many different ways that you can get involved.
I love it. Maria, thank you for stopping by today and getting us all educated and realizing that we have so much work to do, but we can actually find solutions and achieve the goals to make our school systems better so that kids are actually learning and actually have a chance to be very successful and be celebrated for who they are, right? And I think that knowing that there's actual steps and things that we can do makes it so much easier for us, just because it's so much going on and, we're drowned with the news and there's so much going on. But some of the steps that you talked about today, you could do this right off your phone, write an email, done, tweet. It seems like everybody's on social media.
Yeah, and everybody is, I feel like.
Right?
Right. So I want to end by just saying thank you, Nessa, for providing us this platform, because I think it's just super duper important. Again, we all have privilege. Mm-hmm. Some of us more than others, and I think we need to talk about that.
Right.
And we need to use and leverage all of the privilege that we have in order to live in a better world, to make sure that we are making the world better for our kids.
Right. And you said it perfectly. And I again, it's one of those things when people start talking about change and it seems so hard and exhausting, but you just sat here, Maria, and told us such easy ways to really make a difference. And collectively, I'm using my privilege because I have my privilege, and I want to make sure that I use it every way possible to help those who don't have the privileges that I have, right? And I think there's nothing wrong with saying that, and there's nothing wrong with acting on that, right? Because I think sometimes people don't realize, no, you have privilege. It's okay. Yeah. And no one's knocking you for it. You just got to use it to help others.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think that's so important. And, I'm here. I'm an accomplice, not just an ally. I'm out here with you guys. And if there's anything else that we can do, just always let us know. But I encourage everybody to get involved, however way that is, right? Whether it's tweeting, whether it's writing an email, whether it's making sure that they're aware of the bill, get involved.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks,
Nessa. Of course.